go to action.
Let him go, bro.
Woman called in about a missing diver.
He's stuck in a cave.
Let's go!
So sorry.
Rescue High Surf, all new next Monday at 9 on Fox.
Over 25 million viewers have made Doc a hit.
What can I say? I'm surviving.
Join the obsession Tuesday on Fox or anytime on Hulu. Doc is TV's smash hit medical drama, and this week secrets will have consequences. Doc, all new tomorrow on Fox.
Now, your primetime local news leader. Fox 22 News at 10.
Over the weekend, the U.S. Department of Agriculture announced it would be withholding federal funding if the University of Maine was not adhering to President Donald Trump's executive order keeping men out of women's sports. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Beth Jones.
And I'm Devin Dagnall. Our Alex Schley spoke with UMaine students who say they're confused and concerned about how this could impact their education.
On Saturday, the USDA said it launched an investigation into the University of Maine, citing blatant disregard for President Donald Trump's executive order that aims to keep transgender athletes from competing in women's sports. The review comes just days after an exchange between Maine Governor Janet Mills and Trump over the state's compliance.
So you better comply, because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding. See you in court.
In a Facebook Live video on Sunday, Republican Representative Laurel Libby pushed back against Governor Mills, arguing legal action would be too costly for Maine taxpayers.
Their priority is to fight to keep boys and girls sports, no matter how much it cost Maine students.
According to the USDA, the University of Maine receives over $100 million in federal funding from the department. University officials declined to comment on camera, but released a statement saying the USDA has made no allegations of any wrongdoing. They said in part, quote, Maine's public universities will continue to comply with all relevant state and federal laws and cooperate with any compliance reviews to ensure post-secondary education opportunities and high-impact research continue to benefit all students, the state, and this nation. University of Maine students say, however, they feel left in the dark as to if or how they could be affected.
There's been no announcement to my knowledge.
In terms of like the federal aid for UMaine, I haven't heard anything, no.
They're also concerned about what it would mean for their education if the USDA did withhold funding.
I mean, I am in a pretty steep financial situation with this university anyways. Like, federal funding, a bunch of people won't be able to go here anymore.
For now, students say they're waiting for answers as a review moves forward. In Orono, I'm Alex Schley for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
One Maine lawmaker is looking to propose 3 new constitutional amendments through what is known as an Article 5 convention. Our Augusta reporter Corey Bouchard has more on what that process looks like and what amendments he is proposing.
Well, Article 5 under the U.S. Constitution allows state legislatures to actually propose amendments to the Constitution rather than just rely upon Congress.
Senator Rick Bennett is the lead sponsor of a proposed bipartisan resolution calling for 3 separate topics to be raised at a nationwide Article 5 Constitution convention. One has to do with the campaign finance reforms, and the other 2 are term limits for members of Congress and Supreme Court justices.
There's an overwhelming recognition that our institutions are failing us and our democracy is imperiled. And I believe we need to put term limits on Congress because they'll never do it themselves. I also believe that we should put 18-year limits on members of the Supreme Court so that we can make sure that there's a steady and expected turnover in the Supreme Court. And under that provision, every president would be allowed essentially 2 vacancies to fill.
Opponents of calling for a convention fear the process could be used to erode our current constitutional protections.
The ACLU opposes Article 5 conventions for the simple reason that there's nothing in the Constitution that constrains the kinds of topics that can be raised in an Article 5 convention. There's nothing in the Constitution guaranteeing that the process for a convention will be fair. And there's nothing guaranteeing that the Bill of Rights, that our foundational civil liberties and civil rights that exist in the Constitution are protected from the proposals that come out of an Article 5 convention.
Proponents say a runaway convention wouldn't be possible given Supreme Court precedent that would restrict the convention to the topics states agreed upon. If an amendment was passed by a convention, it would require 3/4 or 38 state legislatures to ratify the amendment before it could become law.
Currently today, a poll just taken this year, 83% of the voters want term limits on Congress, and it crosses all party lines.
The bill will now have a committee work session before being voted on by the full legislature. At the State House, I'm Corey Bouchard for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
A Lowell man is in custody after a day-long standoff with police. According to the Department of Public Safety, on Sunday around 4 p.m., troopers responded to a 911 call from a woman reporting a domestic violence situation. Upon arrival, troopers assisted the victim. The department says the victim's husband, 55-year-old Andrew York of Lowell, remained inside the residence and refused to come out. Police say around 2:30 p.m. today, the Maine State Police tactical team and crisis negotiation team arrived to assist the troopers still on scene. At 4:30 this afternoon, York surrendered. He was taken to a local hospital for evaluation and will later be transported to the Penobscot County Jail, where he will be charged with domestic violence-related offenses. The investigation remains ongoing.
A man was killed this morning after a structure collapsed at a hotel in Bar Harbor. Authorities say it happened shortly before 7 a.m. Our Grace Blanchard has details.
A Florida man is dead after police say a canopy collapsed on him at the Bar Harbor Regency. Authorities have identified the deceased as 64-year-old Mark King of Boynton Beach, Florida. According to a joint statement released by the Bar Harbor Fire Department, Police Department, and Mount Desert Police Department, King was trapped under the debris when crews arrived. Emergency crews were able to free King, but despite life-saving efforts, he succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced dead at the scene. Details are limited, but police confirmed King was contracted for a project in Maine. The Department of Occupational Safety and Health Administration are leading the investigation. At this time, it is unclear what caused the structure to collapse. The Bar Harbor Police Department and Mount Desert Police Department will be assisting OSHA in their investigation. In Bar Harbor, I'm Grace Blanchard for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
The Maine Department of Corrections is investigating the death of an inmate. Officials say Roland Dennis Jalbert passed away at the Mount View Correctional Facility on February 21st. The 69-year-old from Hancock was serving time for burglary and theft and was scheduled to be released in May. He was attended by medical personnel. The medical examiner is now working to determine a cause of death.
A man from Lincolnville is behind bars accused of assaulting and threatening to kill his girlfriend. Belfast police say they were called to the Gull Motel just after 8 o'clock last night to investigate a disturbance. They were met by a woman who told them her boyfriend was hiding in one of the units and was armed with a gun. She also told police Jacob McFarland had recently been arrested for assaulting her and wasn't supposed to contact her after being released on bail. But she said over 3 days he threatened to kill her with a knife if she called police and took her phone away. She says he also threatened to confront police and force them to shoot him. The state police tactical team was among those that responded around 1:30 this morning. McFarland surrendered. He was taken to Waldo County Hospital for evaluation before being transferred to jail. He's now charged with domestic violence assault, criminal threatening, and violations of conditions of release. Police say additional charges are likely.
A Dedham man made his first appearance in court today for charges stemming from a shooting that happened over a year ago. According to Bangor Police, Sergeant Jason McCambly, 48-year-old Zachary Fawcett was arrested last Friday on Hildreth Street in Bangor. At the time of the arrest, Fawcett was wanted on multiple warrants. On February 10th, 2024, Fawcett contacted police to report he had shot someone in a parking lot on the UMA Bangor campus. When officers arrived, they found the victim had sustained multiple gunshot wounds and they were transported to a local hospital by ambulance. Fawcett claimed the shooting was in self-defense. After investigation by detectives, Fawcett was indicted by a grand jury and warrants were issued for his arrest on charges of attempted murder, elevated aggravated assault, and aggravated assault. During his appearance, Fawcett pleaded not guilty to all charges. He's currently being held at Penobscot County Jail with a cash bail of $10,000 and is scheduled to return to court the morning of May 13th.
Well, earlier tonight, crews responded to a fire in Calais. They were called to a home on the River Road around 4:30 p.m. This is some video we were able to acquire of the scene. You can see flames there in the background. Multiple towns were called in to assist. We don't have many details at this hour, but we are working to get any information as it becomes available.
There are now a dozen approved private paid family and medical leave policies that employers can use as an option instead of the state-sponsored program. Employers who want to utilize a private program can do so beginning on April 1st through the Maine Paid Leave portal. Patrick Woodcock, the president of the Maine State Chamber of Commerce, says he applauds the progress made on this program.
It's an important milestone for the program. We've seen the private plans to be an integral part of successful programs in other states. We certainly appreciate the private insurers stepping up to participate in Maine's market, and ultimately for employers to make their own decision of whether to utilize one of these options or utilize the state system.
The town of Bar Harbor recently approved a memorandum of agreement that would allow Life Flight of Maine to build a new helipad on a corner of the town ball field. According to the chief executive officer of Life Flight of Maine, Bar Harbor is one of the busiest locations they respond to. In the warmer months, they utilize the ball field off Park and Main Street, but during the winter, they're forced to land at the ferry terminal outside the center of town due to poor landing conditions elsewhere. Officials say the creation of a helipad would allow year-round access, decreasing transport times for patients.
These pre-established emergency landing areas, which sometimes just look like a field, but areas that we have vetted and made sure are safe. Any of those places that we can land the helicopter is a portal for entry for patient into high-level health care that they may need given their individual complex medical issues.
Well, according to Kellner, Life Flight of Maine responded to over 200 incidents in Hancock County in 2024. He says they have been working on this project with the town and fundraising for around 2 years. The project is expected to cost around $225,000, and they hope to have the helipad installed by the end of this summer. No doubt there's another busy summer season ahead, so it seems like a good time to be in full swing with such a project.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's go ahead and hit pause here, folks. We'll get a first look at our forecast.
Thank you very much, Beth. Our first weather tonight is brought to you by Old Town Redemption Center, offering a 10% bonus on your returnables and a monthly $100 drawing. All right, out there for highs today, most of us were above freezing. We saw 35 here in Bangor, lots of mid-30s along the coast as well, a little bit warmer too. Some areas getting close to 40 degrees. We did see Freiburg hit that today in the very southwestern portion of the state. But going up north, temperatures were similar to us here in Bangor, 34 in Millinocket, 33 in Holton, 34 in Presque Isle as well, so a very warm day all across the state. Now for tonight, we're seeing that rain-snow mix. It's going to be out of our area, but by dinner time tomorrow, we're going to be seeing lots of rain. We'll be seeing that right around 6:30, and then going into the night, more of that area up north is going to be seeing some snow as temperatures cool down. But for tonight, temperatures are barely dropping. As you can see, for our lows tonight, we're going to be just above freezing, right around 33 degrees, and that wind is going to wind down as well. Beth?
Those are the highest lows we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's starting to warm up a little bit. It's nice.
Oh my gosh.
All right,
All
well,
right.
Still to come on Fox 22 News at 10, a ribbon cutting ceremony was held for new low-income housing in the Bangor area.
And a group of Maine's legislators met today in hopes of selecting an official state dog. We'll have those stories and more local news when we come back.
Winter is a time to get outside and enjoy all that Maine has to offer. And when it's time to come inside, rest assured everything's toasty because of your Fujitsu heat pump from Valley Home Services. Push a button and you'll be snuggling up on the couch in no time. Valley Home Services offers reliable rebates, significant energy savings, and expert installation. And now save $500 off each indoor unit for all systems installed by April 1st. Embrace the comfort of Fujitsu heat pumps from Valley Home Services. Call or click today.
Tired of your internet service constantly letting you down? Those other providers may promise the world with their flashy advertisements, but are you truly having a good customer experience? Fear not, because there's a new player in town. Introducing GoNet Speed. No more endless hold times or automated responses. We're here to listen, support, and provide you with the exceptional service you deserve. Our fast, reliable fiber internet, it's mind-blowing. Let us show you what true internet satisfaction feels like.
Don't get cold feet this winter. Stay warm and dry with high-performance footwear from Comfort Shoes and More. With an extensive selection of winter boots rated from 0 to minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit, you'll find comfort in knowing your feet will be warm in any weather. Discover the latest in functional and fashionable footwear with grippers built right into the sole. With boots in stock up to 6E and size 17 for men and women. Take the drive to Newport for a sit and fit to find your perfect fit. You and your feet will be glad you did.
On Good Morning Maine, we start each day with a fresh look at what's happening and what's to come.
All the information you need, fast and to the point.
All while having a little fun, too.
We want to set you up for your best day ahead.
And you get a great start to your day by watching Good Morning Maine.
The Super Bowl's coming to town.
This restaurant is festering.
I'm amazed you haven't killed anybody.
Kitchen Nightmares, Road to Super Bowl 59. All new Tuesdays on Fox.
There's new housing in Bangor to help fill a gap in the community. A ribbon-cutting ceremony was held today for Teresa's Place. The 41-unit residence provides permanent housing for individuals transitioning from homelessness or those who are at risk of losing their housing.
This provides an opportunity, maybe a stopgap along the way, allow them to become stable, and then ideally, once they've been able to do that, get the services they need, they can move on to their own place in a different location if they so wish.
The rent is income-based, and most of the units are studio apartment style. Bird says they are still accepting applications, and people should be able to start moving in within a couple weeks.
Well, as it stands, there is no official Maine state dog, believe it or not, but a group of legislators are working to change that. Today, a public hearing was held for LD 80, a bill to designate the Cephalus Siberian sled dog as the official state dog of Maine. Sponsor of the bill, David Boyer, says the sled dog is a remarkable breed that embodies Maine's enduring spirit.
Now, some might wonder, why not choose a breed that is more commonly seen in our homes? And that's a fair question, as Maine is home to many beloved dogs, each with its own quirks and charms. But the Cephalus Siberian sled dog stands apart not because it's common, but because it's exceptional. This rare breed, with its storied past, aligns with our shared values of excellence through hard work and perseverance. Choosing it as our state dog doesn't diminish other breeds, certainly not your own pup at home, but rather elevates a symbol that reflects our highest ideals.
Well, that bill will now go to a work session, and if you've never heard of Cephalus Siberians, maybe click on to Disney Plus and watch a movie called Togo. That might explain it to you.
Boyer actually brought it up during his arguments for the dog being the state dog, and he actually passed around a copy to let people know about it.
Well, what's super cool too is that movie added a whole other dimension to the story of the Serum Run. So many folks are familiar with Balto. He's got the statue in Central Park, and Balto certainly was part of that run. A number of teams were, but it's important that that you get the whole story, and certainly Togo made one of the more difficult runs along with the rest of his team and Leonard Cephalus, so it's a great part of that story.
Yeah, great dogs.
All right.
Well, coming up on the 10 p.m. news on Fox 22, President Trump is having disagreements with religious groups after a judge stopped immigration agents from enforcing operations in houses of worship.
And Apple announced today it will invest $500 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years. We'll have those stories and more when we come back.
Hi, I'm Tony Hafford from TC Hafford Basement Systems, the all things basement-y company. Basement waterproofing, basement structural repair, humidity and mold control, and nasty crawl spaces too. Since 1991, over 15,000 Maine homeowners have trusted TC Hafford Basement Systems to fix their basements. Call TC Hafford Basement Systems today for all things basement-y.
Family owned and operating in the Bangor area for more than 10 years. Crosby's Welding is here to help you. We specialize in steel, stainless steel, and aluminum welding and fabrication. We serve many of the local industries from Maine lobstermen to the commercial trucking industry and everything in between. Fully mobile on-site construction services right down to custom signs and fire pits. Fast, friendly, reliable service. Give us a call today for a free estimate, 974-7815.
Your favorite restaurants for half off. It's half off dining from Fox 22 and ABC 7. Go to foxbangor.com, click on half off dining, and start saving now.
Welcome to my buddy's place, where Maine classics meet a Sicilian twist. Join us in downtown Bucksport, where we're not just serving great food, we're creating a place where everyone feels like family. We can't wait to share a meal with you.
Great restaurants from all over Eastern Maine at half-off dining from Fox 22 and ABC 7.
I'm born to be great. I'm born to be great. No, this isn't pride. It couldn't be pride. Cause this is my fate. The best of the best. I got what it takes. It's not a surprise. It's not a debate. I'm born to be great. I'm born to be great. No, this isn't pride. Cause this is my fate. It's not a debate. I'm born to be great.
There's one number you need to know. It's called Joe.
A blow to the Trump administration after a federal judge halted attempts to raid houses of worship to arrest undocumented immigrants. Fox's Mark Meredith has the latest on that and how the president has been increasingly finding himself at odds with some faith-based groups since returning to office.
A win Monday for a handful of places of worship. A federal judge in Maryland blocking the Trump administration from conducting immigration enforcement actions, such as raids and arrests. That is, despite a recent White House policy permitting field agents to use, quote, common sense and discretion to conduct ICE operations at houses of worship. In his order, the judge says the policy likely violated the group's First Amendment rights to freedom of association.
Now, we got to care for the immigrant, whether I like it or not. It's a moral imperative.
The decision comes as President Trump, now 5 weeks into his second term, finds himself increasingly at odds with some faith-based groups. Last week, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops sued the State Department after it suspended refugee assistance to programs run by church agencies.
We're going to enforce immigration law. We're going to protect the American people.
Yeah.
Donald Trump promised to do that. And I believe the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, if they're worried about the humanitarian costs of immigration enforcement, let them talk about the children who have been sex trafficked because of the wide open border.
2 of the 12 largest non-governmental recipients of USAID funds are faith-based and were hit hard by recent spending cuts, now face layoffs, furloughs, and severe funding shortages.
There's a hell of a lot of chaos going on, but I think at the end, we really will be in a much better place as far as our government.
The order does not stop ICE agents from charging into houses of worship nationwide. It only applies to the specific plaintiffs in this case. In Washington, Mark Meredith, Fox News.
Elon Musk's latest move to downsize the government came via email. Over the weekend, he instructed federal workers to list the tasks they worked on during the week or risk being fired. Now there are reports the Trump administration is rebutting Musk and notifying agencies that no one will be fired for not sending in their accomplishments. But as Fox's Alexandria Hoff reports from Washington, all the back and forth is only adding to confusion.
There was a lot of genius in sending it.
President Trump defending Elon Musk's weekend email to federal employees, demanding they list 5 tasks they've accomplished last week or lose their jobs.
What he's doing is saying, are you actually working? And then if you don't answer, like you're sort of semi-fired or you're fired, because a lot of people are not answering because they don't even exist.
With the midnight deadline approaching, the ultimatum has received both support and intense backlash.
The public workforce needs to be treated with dignity and respect, and so do the American taxpayers. Asking people to justify their work, I think, is a reasonable step.
It's how they're doing it for shock and awe instead of actually making our government more effective, which is what we should find.
Some agencies have instructed their employees not to respond, like NASA, the Defense Department, and the FBI.
Kash Patel, who's now the director of the FBI, told his employees not to respond. Right. Because Elon Musk doesn't have the authority to do that.
Trump claimed those employees are working on confidential projects, so they cannot disclose information.
They don't mean that in any way combatively with Elon.
Another DOGE idea involves the Trump administration taking control of the Postal Service and folding it into the Commerce Department. In Washington, Alexandria Hoff, Fox News.
Apple's new multi-billion-dollar investment in the United States represents the tech company's commitment to creating American-made products. Fox's Anna Eliopoulos has more on this story.
A major announcement from Apple Monday. The tech giant committed to investing more than $500 billion in the United States over the next 4 years. Apple's plans include hiring 20,000 workers, expanding data centers in multiple states, and building a new server manufacturing factory in Texas.
And I like that we're having a president who knows business, who wants to engage with business leaders.
In a post on X, Apple CEO Tim Cook called the corporation a, quote, proud American company. Apple's move coming just days after President Trump met with Cook at the White House. The two spoke about moving some of Apple's operations from Mexico to the U.S. after Trump threatened 25% tariffs on goods from Mexico.
He doesn't want to pay tariffs. I met with him at length, and Apple is coming here with tremendous dollars. They're going to be spending a lot of money in the United States, more than they've ever spent by a factor of probably 10.
Apple also making the move after a significant slump in iPhone sales in China last quarter.
Tim Cook and Apple need to de-risk, decouple to some degree from China, okay? President Trump is working with the grain with him on this one.
Meanwhile, earlier this month, President Trump announced a 10% tariff on all goods imported from China, where Apple builds most of its tech products. Apple did not confirm whether its investment plan was in motion before President Trump took office. Anna Eliopoulos, Fox News.
And still to come on Fox 22 News at 10, our Jody Hersey was in Brewer to highlight a local published author.
And in sports, Maine women's soccer is retiring one senior All-Americans jersey, making her the first soccer player with the honor in university history. We'll be right back.
I don't know what I did or who I am now, but I will be a doctor again.
Doc, all new, Tuesdays on Fox.
Hammond Lumber Company has been a trusted partner of professional contractors, do-it-yourselfers, and homeowners for generations. It's the level of trust that Hammond Lumber has earned by providing an extensive selection of products and materials from industry-leading suppliers, with guidance and support through every stage of any project, including delivery of materials throughout Maine and New Hampshire. Hammond Lumber Company is, has been, and will always be your building project partner.
Roto-Rooter has served the greater Bangor area and beyond for 35 years, offering plumbing, hydrojetting, snaking, descaling, video inspection, and grease interceptor cleaning services. For all your residential and commercial clogs, call Roto-Rooter today, 990-1234.
And away go troubles down the drain. Roto-Rooter.
You live in vacation land, right? Then get out and vacation, why don't you? And do it in style by renting an RV from Maine Campo Rentals. Fully furnished, fully insured, ready to roll out and explore. Or maybe you have relatives visiting you. Save your marriage, save the hotel expense, put them up in an affordable RV from Maine Campo Rentals. We'll deliver to Acadia and local campgrounds too. Call or visit online at mainecamporentals.com. Put away that cell phone and discover vacation land with Maine Campo Rentals in Brewer.
My sister had multiple falls and broke her leg in the nursing home. She was out of her room and unsupervised. How did that happen?
If a serious injury has happened at a nursing home that's brought up cause for concern, call the 2s right now.
Our attorney at Lowry & Associates helped me get answers. He made sure the nursing home paid for what happened to my sister.
If you suspect nursing home abuse or neglect, we're your go-to lawyers.
This is Joseph Newgarden. Joseph was conceived to win races. Stopped drinking milk at 2, picked it back up at 32. Good for strong bones. Tell that to his clavicle. Joseph wins even when he loses. This is his wife, his Tuesdays, his hand-eye coordination. He might have the greatest jawline in sports.
He's not that handsome.
And on Sundays, Joseph flies. Welcome to the fastest racing on Earth.
Israel and Hamas are trading accusations of violating the existing ceasefire as less than a week remains in their initial pause. Fox's Greg Palcott has more from Tel Aviv, the latest on why neither side may proceed in further talks, as both are making demands about hostage and prisoner releases.
Israeli tanks headed into the occupied West Bank over the weekend, a first in more than 2 decades. Israel's defense minister saying troops will remain in parts of the Palestinian territory for the coming year as it works to deepen its crackdown given a rise in attacks throughout the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in an address before the 58th Human Rights Council in Geneva, warned he is gravely concerned over the rising violence in the occupied West Bank and human rights violations in Gaza.
Violations of human rights have skyrocketed since the horrific Hamas attacks of October 7 and the intolerable levels of deaths and destruction in Gaza.
This as Hamas threatens to derail ceasefire deal talks with Israel, saying further steps are conditional on Palestinian prisoners being freed as agreed. Sunday, Israel said it was delaying the release of more than 600 Palestinians in return for 6 living and 4 dead hostages who were returned to Israel last week, accusing Hamas of repeated violations, including what it called humiliating handover ceremonies. Israeli UN Ambassador Danny Danon telling reporters Monday,
"Now we know the truth. Hamas didn't just murder them, they slaughtered them in the most deprived way imaginable."
In a statement from the National Security Council, the White House is backing Israel's decision to delay releasing prisoners, calling the move an appropriate response given the militant group's treatment of hostages. In Tel Aviv, Greg Palcott, Fox News.
On the 3rd anniversary of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, President Donald Trump says the war could end within weeks, but refuses to label Russia as the aggressor or call Vladimir Putin a dictator. As Fox's Rebecca Castor reports, European leaders are looking to get more involved in the peace talks, with the president of France visiting the White House today.
As the fighting in Ukraine enters its 4th year, European leaders are racing to Washington to have a say in how it ends. With the U.S. leading peace talks, President Trump welcomed French President Emmanuel Macron to the White House Monday.
I think we could end it within weeks if we're smart. If we're not smart, it'll keep going. And
Macron is looking to use his friendship with the president to ensure Ukraine is protected during peace negotiations. Trump shocked many world leaders last week when he called Ukrainian President Zelensky a dictator. But he wouldn't call Russian President Vladimir Putin the same today.
I don't use those words lightly. I think that we're going to see how it all works out. Let's see what happens.
The White House is also working on a deal to access Ukraine's rare earth minerals as compensation for the U.S. sending billions in aid. Talk of repayment led to an awkward moment between Trump and Macron.
Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the U.S., loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money. To be clear,
if you believe that, it's okay with me.
But Macron also says Europe is ready to step up, as France and Britain discuss sending peacekeepers to Ukraine after the war.
Europe is willing to step up, to be a stronger partner, to do more in defense and security for the continent.
And today, the United Nations General Assembly voted down a U.S. resolution to end the war in Ukraine that did not mention Russia's aggression in the conflict. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
All right, and coming up, we have our full 5-day forecast. You don't want to miss it.
Here in Bangor, we are seeing chances for both rain and snow tonight, but as we go into tomorrow, temperatures are going to warm up, and what precipitation are we going to see? Is it going to be rain or is it going to be snow? I have those answers coming right up.
There are 16 counties in our state, Cumberland and Franklin, Piscataqua, Kennebec, Oxford and Muskegon. 2, 3, 4. Water, Washington, New York, Lincoln, Knox, and Hancock, Saginaw, and Somerset, Aroostook, and Penobscot.
Rowell's Garage has been serving customers in the greater Dover-Foxcroft region since 1946. Our goal is not just selling you a vehicle, but also giving you quality service to maintain your vehicle at peak performance. Browse our inventory online or in person, whether it's a car, truck, or SUV. We can put you in the vehicle that is right for you. Sales, service, and parts. Rowell's Garage. Doing business the right way every day.
Foggy's Pub, your place for fun, food, and friends in Palmyra, Maine.
Why should your new floor come from Carpet One? Because we're passionate about the spaces our neighbors call home. We're part of your community, and we're also part of the world's largest cooperative of independently owned and operated flooring stores. So you can be sure you'll get great selection and outstanding value with every installation. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, tile, or luxury vinyl, our experts take the guesswork out of choosing the right floor. We're your local Carpet One Floor and Home, the one store for your perfect floor.
Having a hard time breathing.
Try footing your arms above.
Shut up, Robin. The Masked Singer, Lucky Season 13, all new Wednesdays on Fox.
Thank you very much. For highs out there today here in Bangor, we got above freezing. It was a warm day in the mid-30s here in town. We saw 36 in Bar Harbor, 37 in Rockland. Some areas got close to 40 degrees today. We did see Freiburg hit 40 degrees, but as we go up north, temperatures were very similar to here in Bangor for today. Lots of low to mid-30s. We see that Millinocket, Holton, Presque Isle. Only areas where we really saw those low 30s at was at Clayton Lake and Greenville, with their highs right around 31 to 30 degrees for today. Going into tonight, the models showing us right around 30 with a big system moving in. I think we're going to be just above freezing, right around 33 degrees for our low. So temperatures barely dropping for tonight. There is a possibility for some areas to be in the upper 20s, but most likely staying right around freezing for tonight. Now, as we go into tomorrow, the models are showing us warming up into those low to mid 40s, but I think we're going to be a lot warmer. Expect our high to be right around 47 degrees. We'll see that along the coastal regions as well. Temperatures will be cooler though, a little bit above freezing, but still expect some snow in the northern portions of the state for tomorrow, especially as we head into tomorrow night. Now, our average this time of year is above freezing, right around 34 degrees. We are going to be well above that for tomorrow, with that high reaching 47. We'll be 43 on Wednesday as well. Temperatures are going to start to dwindle down as we get back into our weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Temperatures right around freezing then, just a little bit below average, well below average as we head into next week. Monday, that high is looking to be right around 26 degrees. Winds were very strong out there for today. They're going to continue to be strong for the first few overnight hours tonight. But as we get into noon for tomorrow, in the early morning hours as well, winds are going to be much more calm, seeing right around 2 to 5 mile per hour gusts, and then by the coast, right around 10 to 12. So a little bit more of a breeze by the coast, but that will start to dissipate as well as we get into tomorrow night. As we get into Wednesday morning, there will be some more wind back in the area where we see gusts right around 15 to 20 miles per hour near the Bangor and coastal regions. Now, as out there right now, we are seeing this Clipper system make its way through. It is a lot of snow out here right now for the northern and central portions of the state, but we could see that tail end. It's bringing a lot of rain with that as well. Not much, but we are seeing that tail end. That's going to be bringing precipitation as rain because of the temperatures being slightly above freezing. Now, this will be out of our area right around 1 to 2 a.m., but by dinner time tomorrow, with the very warm temperatures, lots of us are going to be seeing rain rather than snow. There's still going to be a wintry mix. We'll see that the western and northern portion of the state, but right around 6:30, we are going to be seeing lots of rain, unfortunately, rather than snow. But as we go later on into the night, that's when we're going to see those temperatures drop. We'll see lots of snow in the northern portion of the state with us right around 6 a.m., getting that possibility of some more snow, but most likely it's going to be a wintry mix before that system is out of our area going into Wednesday afternoon. For tonight, we're going to see lows right around freezing, just a tick above at 33. There's going to be some rain and snow showers moving in within the next hour or so, and south winds gusting near 25 miles per hour for tonight. Going to tomorrow, winds are going to be better, right around 5 to 10 miles per hour. That high reaching 47 degrees, but expect those rain showers to show up right around dinner time. Take a look at our extended forecast. We can see a drier day Wednesday, especially after that system moves out of the way. Highs right around 43, and then the temperatures drop. A rain and snow mix for Thursday, and going into Saturday, temperatures will be back below freezing. Beth?
Chase, thank you.
Sports is next with Tyler Cruz.
Family owned and operating in the Bangor area for more than 10 years. Crosby's Welding is here to help you. We specialize in steel, stainless steel, and aluminum welding and fabrication. We serve many of the local industries from Maine lobstermen to the commercial trucking industry and everything in between. Fully mobile on-site construction services right down to custom signs and fire pits. Fast, friendly, reliable service. Give us a call today for a free estimate. 974-7815.
Your favorite restaurants were half off. It's half off dining from Fox 22 and ABC 7. Go to foxbangor.com, click on half off dining, and start saving now.
Discover the charm of Warren's Waterfront Restaurant, Bucksport's only waterfront dining. Relax in a cozy atmosphere where every visit feels like home. Indulge in fresh, flavorful dishes paired with stunning river views. Join us at Warren's Waterfront, your perfect escape.
Great restaurants from all over Eastern Maine at half off dining from Fox 22 and ABC 7.
The best bulls in the world have come to town. For bulls and their riders, those 8 seconds go by in a heartbeat. 8 seconds to become a champion, or nothing. This is America, and this is PBR.
It's bowl time, Banger. Kubota PBR Banger bucks into Cross Insurance Center March 7th through the 9th. Get your tickets now at pbr.com/tickets or Ticketmaster.
Don't get cold feet this winter. Stay warm and dry with high-performance footwear from Comfort Shoes and More. With an extensive selection of winter boots rated from 0 to minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit, you'll find comfort in knowing your feet will be warm in any weather. Discover the latest in functional and fashionable footwear with grippers built right into the sole. With boots in stock up to 6E and size 17 for men and women. Take the drive to Newport for a sit and fit to find your perfect fit. You and your feet will be glad you did.
You can't miss. Let's go! TV's most addictive game show.
Let's go!
The Floor is on new Wednesdays on Fox.
Welcome back in, everyone. Thank you for staying with us. Let's start on the soccer pitch. After back-to-back seasons as an All-American and leading Maine to 2 America East championships, the Black Bears are retiring Abby Kramer's number 12. The university announcing on Friday that it will be retiring Kramer's jersey after an incredible career in Orono. Kramer becomes the first and only Maine women's soccer player to have her jersey retired. She's the first women's athlete not from basketball to receive the honor as well. She says it's an honor to be mentioned with the all-time greats of UMaine athletics, but she didn't get here all alone.
It's obviously an incredible honor, super surreal and a mix of emotions. I mean, I think it's really just a testament to the dedication and commitment by the entire program. So yeah, I didn't get here alone. And I've gotten so much support from my teammates, my coaches, the training staff, and my family. So this is as much a moment for them as it is for me.
Kramer leaves behind a Maine career that includes the first two All-American nods in program history, the first conference championship and regular season championship in program history, an America East Striker of the Year award, 2 NCAA tournament trips, and more. But it isn't the accolades that stick with her. It's the relationships she's built over the years.
What stands out for me is like the relationships that we built. I mean, we all pushed each other every day to get the best out of each other. I mean, obviously the wins and the championships mean so much and were great, but when I look back, it's the bonds that we made that I think are going to last.
Kramer, since leaving the program, has signed to play pro soccer in Europe, Portugal specifically. The university is planning a ceremony to honor her, hopefully this fall. Let's go to some hoop now. Off of the Maine high school beat for just a second. Down in Durham, Cooper Flagg once again setting records. He wins the ACC Rookie of the Week award for the 11th time. Flagg surpassing Kenny Anderson, Tyler Hansbrough, and Jabari Parker this week, and his 11 Rookie of the Week honors are the most all-time in ACC history. Those three each had won the award 10 times. Cooper averaged 16.5 points, 10.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 1 block and 1 steal per game over the week, helping Duke to 2 big wins, first over Virginia and later a 110-67 win over Illinois at Madison Square Garden. Duke is now the second-ranked team in the country in the most recent AP poll. And a big congratulations to Ace Flag. Staying on the subject, Ace and his new squad from Greensboro Day School winning the North Carolina 3A state championship this past weekend. Flag had 11 points in the win, second on his team, but he had his fingerprints all over the contest. Over his career now, Ace has won state championships in 3 different states, starting with the Class A gold ball with Nokomis back in 2022. They won with Montverde Academy in Florida, including a national title with the Eagles, and now he gets one in North Carolina. Ace will be suiting up at the Pit with Maine men's basketball this coming fall, so it won't be long until we get to see him in person again. Staying with basketball now and back up here in Maine, the Mr. and Miss Maine basketball finalists have been announced, with the MABC committee narrowing each awards finalist down to 3. Congratulations to Jameer Rolls out of Noble, Wyatt Benoit out of Thornton Academy, and Gabe Lash from Madomic Valley for being named the 3 finalists for Mr. Maine basketball. And congratulations to Ella Pelletier out of Oxford Hills, Lexi Morin out of Brunswick, and from the north, Madeline Depray from Caribou for being the 3 Miss Maine finalists. Depray will play for the Class B Gold Ball in Portland on Saturday. Big congratulations to all of them, very deserving. Staying with basketball now, it was another great tourney week last week, but the postseason madness is not over. Still 2 more days to go with those Gold Ball games this upcoming weekend. Those start Friday with Class A in Augusta. The Messalonski boys, they represent the North. They will play Falmouth after taking down Hamden Academy, but those Broncos girls outlasted Camden Hills in double overtime in a classic. They will play Mount Ararat for that Gold Ball. On Saturday, Class C and D take the Cross Center and Class C girls. In their 4th straight regional finals appearance, Penobscot Valley gets the championship plaque. It was a great tournament for the unbeaten Howlers. They scored over 80 in their first 2 games while taking down Mattanockcook in a thriller in the last game to win the North.
The seniors really need to get that monkey off their back. They've been here 4 times now, and so I wanted it so bad for them. I didn't even, I don't care about myself, you know what I mean? So I want them to go win a state championship for our community. So.
In Class D, the Skank Wolverines were the winners for the boys. It's been an incredible run for the Wolverines these past few years. They've got just 2 losses over the past 2 seasons, one coming last year in the regional finals and one the first game of the season this year, so it's been 19 straight for them. Head coach Aaron Hutchins told me afterwards he's happy the guys are just maxing out their season together.
Like I said, man, it's surreal, but on the other side too, it's emotional. I can't stress about these guys enough. I got the best coaching staff in the world. It's a close-knit family, and it's finally surreal to bring something back home to my hometown that we tried winning 4 years in high school. So it's a happy accomplishment. I'm very happy for our players.
Big congratulations to all the winners. We'll try and catch up with as many as we can this week. Best of luck in the Gold Ball games. That is all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
At Spectrum, we believe every day unlocks unlimited possibilities to bring you closer to the people and places you love. Spectrum transforms your gaming experience into a galaxy of adventures. And with the fastest, most reliable internet, you're always front row to the entertainment you love, no matter where you are. Get Spectrum Internet Premier for $30 per month when bundled plus a 3-year price guarantee. Call 1-833-440-0029. Spectrum Internet puts streaming live TV, sports, and popular apps all at your fingertips.
Your favorite restaurants for half off. It's half off dining from Fox 22 and ABC 7. Go to foxbangor.com, click on half off dining, and start saving now.
Welcome to my buddy's place, where Maine classics meet a Sicilian twist. Join us in downtown Bucksport, where we're not just serving great food, we're creating a place where everyone feels like family. We can't wait to share a meal with you.
Great restaurants from all over Eastern Maine at half off dining from Fox 22 and ABC 7.
Hi, Todd from Dorsey Furniture here with a great financing offer on beautiful new furniture. The new introductions are here, new sofas and sectionals from Flex Steel, a new cherry bedroom by Ben and Aaron, as well as a new collection of living rooms by Leather Italia. During the month of February, qualified buyers can enjoy new furniture and take 24 months to pay at 0% interest. On sale pricing plus 24-month interest-free financing makes right now a great time to transform your home. Live well, my friends.
John Brown first opened his own appliance store in Ellsworth in 1976. With his gift of storytelling, a strong work ethic, and a philosophy of putting others first, John and his wife and children saw the business prosper and grow. Today's third and fourth generation of family and their entire team continue to follow the example set by their grandparents and parents. Brown Appliance and Mattress, High Street, Ellsworth. A family tradition of quality, value, and customer service that always puts you first.
For 3 years in a row, Chevy has earned more J.D. Power Initial Quality Awards than any other brand.
1, 2, 3.
Whether it's a high-tech SUV, the all-electric Equinox EV, or a truck for work or play, Chevy is America's most awarded brand for new vehicle quality. Current Chevy owners can get $3,000 cash allowance on all 2024 Tahoe and Suburban models. Visit your main Chevy dealers.
This is next level.
Create a next level dish.
We're gonna smoke those 2 floors above us.
All new Next Level Chef, Thursdays on Fox.
The 2025 award season made a stop at the Screen Actors Guild Awards Sunday night. Fox's Ashley Dvorkin was on the red carpet, catching up with the stars.
Stars at the Screen Actors Guild Awards red carpet reflected on the journey they've been on with these latest roles of theirs.
Little kids, the parents who just want to say that they like the film and that they know the dance, and the fact that that means something to them, because I feel like kids are the truth tellers, and I've heard so much from parents and so much from people who are just like, I saw myself in this.
The excitement can be encouraging.
Yeah, people asking me when. But we just finished the script, 10 episodes for season 2.
There's going to be a bunch of great guest stars that they'll announce at some point soon. I've read a few of the scripts. It feels the same sort of comforting show, but the mystery is so different this year.
Returning honorees spoke about getting to know fellow nominees.
We have a kind of an award show relationship developed. I've already helped people, with their dress in the ladies' room. We bonded over whatever the rubber chicken meal was. And not that it's bad, it's wonderful, it's really good. But, you develop a little bit of a shorthand.
Some took a trip down memory lane with us.
My first role that I think I got like a SAG credit for, I was Throw Up Girl number 2, and I was hunched over a toilet. I must have had enough lines to get a SAG credit.
Others shared what they've loved about the past season of stories on screen.
How women were being represented, the diversity of storytelling, tonally, choice actress-wise, but just to be able to see it not fit into one category. It covered a lot of bases, and it felt good to be a woman. I'm 59, so it felt good to be this age and watch it.
In Los Angeles, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
Well, did you know February is American Heart Month? Well, even though we're about to enter March, medical experts are issuing tips and tricks they say you should be following not just in February, but 365 days of the year. Fox's Sue Guzman takes a closer look.
While February marks American Heart Month, medical experts say maintaining good heart health should be a year-long goal.
There are a lot of things that we can do to improve our risk of developing heart disease, such as eating healthy, exercising regularly, eating less, getting good sleep.
According to the CDC, heart disease is the leading cause of death in the nation. High blood pressure, high blood cholesterol, and smoking are key risk factors for heart disease. Nearly half of the people in the United States have at least one of these 3 risk factors. And in 2022, more than 700,000 Americans died from heart disease.
It all starts with knowing what your numbers are and getting them controlled.
Early detection and understanding possible symptoms is critical.
It could be shoulder, back discomfort, shortness of breath, heart racing. If you're having any discomfort from the belly button up that's not going away, to ask your clinician about it.
Meanwhile, health professionals recommend making lifestyle changes when it comes to food we eat.
We live in a time of convenience where we are more apt to grab fast food items or prepackaged food items, but in reality these foods are typically laden with additional fats and sugars and sodium, all which can contribute to the degradation of heart health over time. So choosing whole items such as whole fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and low-fat dairy.
Seeking ways to boost your physical activity is also encouraged.
Our heart is a muscle. It has to be worked. It has to be exercised.
Sue Guzman, Fox News.
Well, meeting a stranger can change anyone's life. That is certainly the case for 79-year-old Richard Spinney. The Brewer resident was simply enjoying his retirement when an encounter with a man and his dog inspired this Maynard to write a children's book. Our Jody Hersey has more.
Richard Spinney, who served 20 years in the Coast Guard, was visiting one of his daughters in Iowa when he met a stranger and his dog that he couldn't stop thinking about.
I met a guy out the parking lot of the motel, and he had a dog that was kind of small, but up to his knees. And I thought it looked abused. I didn't want to accuse him or anything, so I said, "Your dog looks kind of shy." He said, "Yeah." He says, "I found it in the field a couple days ago." And he said, "I took it to a vet, and the vet didn't give it too much hope."
Spinney thought a book about that stranger, who he calls William, and his stray dog would make a good children's story. So he started writing, and before long, The Adventures of Emma was created and published.
So there's 12 illustrations in that and about 30 photographs that I took.
Spinney's one book led to two more stories called More Adventures of Emma and The Adventures of Toby as Told by Emma, which was published in 2024.
I know I'll never be a Stephen King or anything like that, you know.
Spinney admits he's never contacted that stranger who inspired him to become an author later in life.
I probably should tell him one day. I have his email address.
For now, he hopes the bond he writes about between William and Emma will encourage readers to look for the good in others. Spinney's books are available at Barnes & Noble and Amazon.
Actually, if I want to relax, a lot of times I'll pick up one of the books and read it.
In Brewer, I'm Jody Hersey for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
It's time for one of Maine's most time-honored traditions. Farms around the state are tapping trees to prepare for Maine Maple Weekend. Our Callie Warren spoke to one local farm to see how they're setting up.
So today we're out in the woods tapping trees, maple trees.
For John and Eileen Williams, it's tapping time. They're starting work on tapping all of their maple trees.
And that tree is tapped.
A process that takes over a week.
We have 3,300 trees that will be tapped. Okay. We have over 1,200 that are tapped right now.
And will produce thousands of gallons of syrup.
1,130 gallons.
It's a labor-intensive process.
We have this fancy-looking drill that we use. And you don't have to have this, it just helps us make a better hole. We try to drill straight in and straight out so it doesn't make an oblong hole.
The taps run sap through hundreds of feet of tubing.
We call it a wet-dry line, so the top one is dry with no sap in it. And the bottom one is a wet line, which carries the sap.
The sap is currently too cold to run, but soon it will be processed through their machinery.
So this actually creates the vacuum that's pulling on all the lines in every tree.
Despite the hard work involved, Williams encourages anyone who's interested to tap a tree and get started.
Even if you only have access to 2 or 3 trees or a dozen trees, it's a really good family experience.
Maine Maple Weekend is just about a month away, and the folks at Williams Family Farm will be stocked up with your Maine maple favorites.
Maple nuts, maple cream, maple candy, maple cotton candy, maple sugar. Is that it? I don't know.
Maple syrup.
Maple syrup. A lot of maple syrup.
In Clifton, Callie Warren, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
And not forget the maple syrup.
No, of course not. It's the staple.
It is the staple. It goes on ice cream. It goes on your pancakes.
Everything.
Whatever. Dip your bacon in it.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever works. All right. Well, that is going to do it for us. From everyone here at Fox 22 News, take care and good night.
We'll see you later.
For more local news coverage, switch over to our sister station ABC7 right now for ABC7 News at 11.
You know that look. She's concerned about you. She can tell that you're...
Jimmy's all new with Chris Pratt and Drew Carey. Jimmy Kimmel Live, later tonight.
We're going to Vegas for Layla's birthday. I feel like this is definitely crossing the line.
Oh, I can already smell it. I can already smell it.
Connor and I have talked about homesteading for a really long time. We want a farm.
Copper, no!
There's a difference between running away and just removing yourself from a toxic environment.
So I have a secret, and at this point, I feel like I have to tell somebody.
If she finds out and the baby comes, she would probably divorce him.
This is ABC7 News at 11.
Over the weekend, the U.S. Department of Agriculture